Britain's military history is full of famous victories: Waterloo, Trafalgar, Normandy. But hidden beneath those great moments are the battles we rarely talk about. Stories of heroism, chaos, mistakes and miracles. Welcome to Britain's Forgotten Battles. In today's episode, we travel back to the 22nd of January 1879, to a small mission station in Zulu land, where 150 British soldiers faced down 4,000 Zulu warriors in what many believed was certain death. This is the story of Rourke's Drift, a battle so unbelievable that history almost shouldn't have allowed it. Before the battle began, disaster had already struck the British Army. Earlier that same day, at Eisenhower, a British force of nearly 1,800 men was destroyed by the Zulu kingdom. News of that catastrophe moved fast. But just a few kilometers away, a tiny supply station, Rourke's Drift, was still occupied by a small British garrison. These men had no idea a massive Zulu force was heading directly for them. The station wasn't a fortress. It was simply a missionary hospital, a small storehouse, and some flimsy walls, nothing more. Commanding the post were Lieutenant Gonville Bromhead, a quiet but capable officer, an engineer who suddenly found himself in charge of a battle he never expected to fight. Around 3 p.m., British scouts spotted what looked like a black wave rolling across the hills. Thousands of Zulu warriors advancing in disciplined formations. These were veterans of the Zulu king, Cetshwayo, men trained from childhood in war. They carried the traditional assegai stabbing spear, large cowhide shields, and astonishing speed. Outnumbered 26-1, the British had a choice: run or make a stand. They chose to fight. Chard and Bromhead ordered the men to transform the little station into a makeshift fort. They built a wall of mealie sacks, a barricade of biscuit boxes, and firing positions using furniture dragged from the hospital. They even constructed a final fallback position, a tiny courtyard known later as the Redoubt. As the sun beat down on the dusty ground, the British fixed bayonets and waited. One officer simply said, "Here they come." The first Zulu attack hit with terrifying force. Thousands rushed forward chanting in unison. The British opened fire. Their single-shot Martini Henry rifles roared, each bullet powerful enough to tear through shields and warriors behind them. But the Zulus kept coming. The noise was described as continuous thunder, gunfire, war cries, screams, and the thudding of shields against the barricades. The Zulus targeted the hospital first, knowing it was the weakest point. Inside the hospital, wounded soldiers and their defenders fought room to room. Zulu warriors smashed through walls, spears jabbing into the smoky, cramped corridors. British soldiers defended each room until they were forced to burn their way out, literally breaking holes in the walls to avoid the smoke and the Zulu spears. Among the heroes was Private John Williams, who held off attackers while rescuing patient after patient, dragging them through holes in the collapsing hospital. Eventually the hospital collapsed, but the defenders escaped to the inner barricade. As darkness fell, the attackers became even more desperate. The Zulus made several mass charges, each one threatening to overcome the thinning line of defenders. Ammunition carriers rushed to the firing line as men shot until rifles blistered their hands. Hours and hours the British held on, barely. But around midnight the attack slowed. By 2 they had stopped entirely. The defenders didn't sleep. They waited in silence, in complete darkness, knowing the next wave could be any minute. As the sun rose on the 23rd of January, the men of Rourke's Drift finally saw what they had done. Hundreds of Zulus lay around the barricades. The survivors stood in disbelief, but alive. They had held the station. Out of 150 men, 17 were dead and dozens wounded, but they had stopped an army. Rourke's Drift became one of the most decorated actions in British military history. 11 Victoria Crosses were awarded, the most for any single battle. But the story is more than just medals. It is a moment where normal men, caught in the wrong place at the wrong time, stood firm against the odds. A battle born from disaster, turned into one of Britain's most unbelievable last stands.